King of the Hill is one of the greatest animated series of all times. Its sometimes dry yet incredibly relatable sense of humor mixed with jabs at all sides of American culture made it one of the funniest shows on TV.
I am the Mac Daddy of Heimlich County. I play it straight up, yo.
In addition to that, its good-natured characters and messaging made it a show with heart. Throughout 13 seasons, watching Hank and Bobby learn from one another always made us laugh and occasionally warmed our hearts. Since the show went off the air in 2009, fans have asked over and over, will it ever come back?
Give it back! Give it back to me!
Now in the age of reboots, it's almost as if the question is turned into, when will it come back? And that's what we're asking today. I'm Kyle with Wicked Binge, and we want to know, will King of the Hill return with a reboot? If you're new here, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you get notifications whenever we upload, I tell you what.
Boy, I could listen to the sound of sizzle all day long.
Where things left off. The final episode of King of the Hill ends with Hank and Bobby grilling steaks. The neighbors, all of the show's main characters, smell the barbecue and come over. Bobby looks at the last steak on the grill and says, "Looks like this is the last one," to which Hank responds, "You're just getting started, Bobby. You'll be grilling your whole life." Afterwards, the camera pans over Arlen, essentially bookending the series the same way it started. But it still left a lot of fans really sad about their favorite show coming to an end. Mike Judge speaks out. But what has the show creator said about a King of the Hill reboot? Well, the man himself, Mike Judge, has been speaking very openly about bringing the series back. In fact, as recently as March of this year, he confirmed that there has been talks of reviving the show and even discussed in detail how he would like to tackle it. Not only that, Fox Television Group Chairman and CEO Dana Walden has mentioned that the network is interested as well. According to her, the only thing getting in the way at the moment is the busy schedules of the show's co-creators, Mike Judge, who's focused on writing, directing, and producing Silicon Valley, as well as Greg Daniels, who's producing People of Earth on TBS. But more importantly, Mike Judge spoke out recently about how he would like the reboot to be grounded. The setting. Quite some time has passed since King of the Hill went off the air. In fact, it's been nearly a decade. Which is why when asked about the show, Mike Judge made it a point to say that he'd like the characters on the show to age as well. He talked about how it would be important to have Bobby older since it was starting to strain a bit keeping him 13 years old for so long. Judge said it would be important to show a passage in time because people have grown up and so should the characters. Making Bobby age 9 or 10 years would put him in his early 20s. If they placed him in a college setting, it might make the perfect atmosphere for some hilarious and relatable culture wars with Hank. Tackling our current culture. Everything has changed since King of the Hill went off the air in 2009. The country has become overwhelmingly more polarized, with Donald Trump making outrageous tweets from the White House to college campuses being overrun by safe spaces, trigger warnings, and gender pronouns. It seems like America needs lovable everyman Hank Hill to make a return to kick some asses. With the country so divided, there's no better time for a King of the Hill reboot, considering the show never took a firm political stance and instead chose to poke fun at the cultural aspects of both the left and right, as well as everything in between. A reboot could be the thing to bring everyone back together, whether they're liberals or conservatives. One of the great things about King of the Hill is that it was never preachy. The comedy came from taking a straight and narrow guy and throwing him into some new or absurd cultural setting, but it never had an agenda. Dale was a gun-obsessed conspiracy theorist, but the show never demonized gun owners. Hippies were always the butt of a joke, but the show never attacked their philosophies and instead just used them to create funny situations to play off Hank's reserved nature. Cotton Hill was, well, a lot of things. But the show never morally grandstanded against his behavior and instead just encouraged us to laugh at it. Even when Hank himself was ignorant to something, he'd often learn to be a bit more enlightened by the end of the episode and ultimately rectify any problem that was created. A simple yet honorable role model in this day and age. What present-day cultural things would you like to see Hank take on? Returning cast. Assuming showrunners were able to free up time in their schedules to return, they'd still have to bring back the cast. Since Mike Judge voiced Hank and Boomhauer, they'd be covered. Pamela Adlon voiced Bobby. Since now she's the star and showrunner of HBO's Better Things, hopefully she'd be on board to come back. Kathy Najimy voiced Peggy, and Johnny Hardwick voiced Dale. Stephen Root voiced Bill Dauterive. Although he has 243 acting credits, he'd probably be on board for a reboot given his track record working with Mike Judge. Obviously, there are dozens of other memorable characters, but we imagine most of their actors and actresses would love the show to be revived as much as we would, or at least we hope so. Luanne and Lucky. Unfortunately, a couple of our beloved characters would not be able to return with their original voice actors, as Brittany Murphy, who played Luanne, and Tom Petty, who played Lucky, passed away. Since many would likely consider it inappropriate to recast these roles, it may be best to write that they moved away from Arlen, perhaps with some sort of reference to the characters in an episode that acts as a tribute to Murphy and Petty. How would you like to see it handled? What about Cotton? There's no denying that Cotton Hill was one of the most entertaining characters on the show, and he accomplished a lot.
I killed 50 men.
He always brought chaos into the Hills' home and had some of the funniest and most over-the-top lines in the entire series.
What you think of your mama's new tatas? Get me my beer, woman.
However, in the episode Death Picks Cotton, he dies of a heart attack, leaving us without his constant barrage of hilarious insults at the expense of others.
God, you got a fat neck, Hank.
Obviously, if the show were to keep with the original continuity, not to mention jump into the future 10 years, it would have to go on without Cotton, but perhaps there's still hope for his return, if the writers chose to incorporate the occasional flashback. After all, what could be better than to reflect on some advice from the late great Cotton Hill?
I killed 50 men.
Will it happen? Well, that's the million-dollar question. Although nothing is certain, Mike Judge's enthusiasm suggests that this reboot may very well happen in the future. And with the higher-ups at Fox seeming to give the thumbs up, we have a pretty good feeling that we'll see more of the Hill family. In the age-old debate of which grown-up animated show is the best, many will say The Simpsons, South Park, or God forbid Family Guy. But for the King of the Hill fans out there, we know this show has a certain heart to it that is unique and relatable. But what do you think? Would you like to see King of the Hill return? What issues would you like to see Hank Hill take on in this current year? Please remember to like this video, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get notifications whenever we upload, and you get to watch our videos that are so fire that they must have been cooked with some clean burning, energy efficient propane. But most importantly, stay wicked.